Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Harebrained Games. Today we're going to take a look at a game by Vital Lacerda called Escape Plan. Now, you've already done the heist. That's in the past. That's yesterday's news. You and a group of friends have successfully managed to pull off one of the greatest heists in the history of big, huge, heavy box games by Vital Lacerda. Now, everything's great until the cops start catching hints and clues, and pretty much all your friends, that band of brothers, is the band of gotta get out of here and you guys are on your own. So everyone turns into Loki and they're all making their own way in life. Your job is to collect as much of the cash as you stashed around the city, and then at the end of the third day have escaped the city, gotten away from the police with as much cash as possible. That's the premise of the game. Let's take a look and see what it's like. Look at the components and pieces of Escape Plan. First off, we have the always popular pizza box size manual. Very detailed, pretty much top notch as expected with a Vital game. We'll start inwards and go out. This is the map upon which you're going to play. Every part of the map as it's constructed is consequential to your efforts to escape the city on the third day. These are the starting tiles, and on each starting tiles you will notice locations, various locations on the tiles. Now over time, each day, you're going to have these four tiles on each day are going to be revealed, and in order, people are going to place those tiles onto the map. You're always going to know the four tiles that are pending so that you can make some strategic adjustments. So for example, if in the first part of the day, as each player is placing them, the only rules really are that they can't be just strung off one next. They have to be connected to at least two other tiles, which means that the first two players are going to pick here or here.
Okay, let's take a look at the components.
And you have to have terrain that matches at least partially. So this is acceptable. Don't worry about that. As long as there's some sort of mutual understanding of terrain tile somewhere on this edge, you can do that. You could also, for example, do
these will wreak havoc when they are activated, and they will slowly grow, and then they will invade.
Once you have placed a tile, then you can
careful.
Resolve anything on the tile that needs to be filled in.
You have the score track with
and
your
that leads us
legacy
into
token
these
and
points.
the
Don't worry about
Emperor
that. That's a
turn.
subway.
These come into play because this is really the
once you place your tile,
then you have
an opportunity to place a building. And this is where we go to this section. These are the buildings that will be populating the city. Each of these buildings
you will get events, and these events will change gameplay radically over the course of the turn until the next event.
But
they're
you place
good and
them,
bad and all points in between.
and why you would place them? Because everybody's going to get a special card, and that card is going to show you all these locations and what happens when you visit these locations. So for player green, should he visit, he or she visit the nightclub,
it also has a 4-page placard AI guide.
they will get a
murky
100K
all three of the bots
in future money,
playing with.
victory
Again,
money,
we'll go
as
over
I like
that
to call it,
later.
because there's two types of money.
Both of the manuals are succinct but very
and the other places,
detailed
if you land on the
and
green,
to the point.
then you just immediately get instant money, free money that you're going to use to spend
with their deck
to
cards
activate
to begin
things.
with.
But yeah, the future money is really more
general tokens. One you'll begin
for
with.
it's victory point money. Really, you can't really do anything with it. It means at the end of the game you're going to get that much. Anyway, but that's why you would place these buildings. And if you're able to visit 3 of these buildings on your turn, you're going to get an extra action turn or an extra tile and reduce your notoriety. Another time that we'll go into. Those are the buildings. Also, you have safe houses, and safe houses are slightly different in that
doubles the amount of cards.
they still run the same. They're still on your sheet. You can still see that
used not just for the influence, but also for the action. That might be a little different for people who are used to playing
safe houses. And like I said, everybody's card is different, so you don't really know who's going to really want to go where and why. But as you place these,
you have upgrades.
When you visit one of these, you're going to get a key, and that key can unlock stuff at the store. Makes sense, right? And once you visit all 3, you're going to get either an extra action token or, once again, an action tile and free money. Also, you have fixer tiles. These are kind of bonuses that you get that when you visit a safe house. You grab any one of these you want. You don't have to, it's not random. You grab them whatever you want. You pay the cost for them. And then they're there in your spot. And anytime you use them, you flip them over and they're done. These one-time use tiles are pretty powerful at times. That's that side of the board. Now, let's talk about
governors,
the
which you'll
escape
easily
plan. Each turn,
as you begin the game.
see these subtle cards here?
No
2 of these are revealed each day.
Players,
There's only 5.
And you have
Why
dice.
is that? How can that work? Well, the first day,
square
you're going to get
things
these
that you roll,
tiles, these
and numbers
revealed,
show up on the
and they
top.
will show, for example...
Kidding. Anyway, that's it. Now let's
okay,
get
so that's
into
3, so that goes over here
gameplay.
and here. Now, the minute you have a second tile revealed, okay, there's 2. The minute you reveal the same tile or the same card twice, that closes that exit. What does that mean? It means that you're not going to be escaping there. And then, of course, since there's 5 cards, you know 2 of the exits are going to close, which means that on day 3, you will know that that's the exit. You don't know which exit exactly, so you can only count somewhat for it. But yeah, that's why there's 5 cards, because the missing card is the actual exit. Now, oh, there's also great write-up sheets. Here is the store. When you visit the store, you can buy equipment that will help you avoid the cops. You get gas, because that'll help you move a little farther on your turn. And this is where you use the keys, one-time use. And you can use these to open lockers and see if you can get stuff inside. Like this is worth 100 grand of future money, victory money at the end of the game. Although there are a couple blanks there where you get nothing. That would be frustrating. Then we have gangs. You'll notice that there are gangs. When you land on a gang spot, you get to place one of your, hey, I'm going to influence this gang. And then from that point on, your gangs are here. You can also use them to either travel around the map a little faster, or you could use those to simply avoid all the cops in one area that you're leaving. So there's that. And finally, you have the main track area, and this is where you're going to do your day. 3 days, and so every day, everyone's taking a turn, 3 actions a day. Take a turn, figure out notoriety, take a turn, figure out notoriety, take a turn. If you have extra actions that you earn, you may use them for a little extra boost each day. And then you have your player order, and you have your notoriety. Now, notoriety is an interesting thing. It's a double-edged sword. As you gain notoriety, you are going to be able to get more points at the end of the game. And you're also going to be able to get some special power-ups. Like you're going to get extra action tiles and stuff. And yeah, it's notoriety is something that gains in like ebbs and flows through the game. Pretty much every action has some direct or indirect way that modifies your notoriety. Notoriety being on the board here, that's how it's tracked. Once you get up there in notoriety, however, you also are subject to the like cops coming in and getting closer to you, and so other players will mess with you if you have more notoriety than they do. So it is a mixed blessing. You have to kind of choose how to monitor it. And finally, we have contact cards. These are your friends. You want to collect these friends over town, and like I said, like there's lots of places you visit that also let you take a contact card. When you have a contact card, they do special abilities. This one lets you eliminate or get rid of or move around, or it lets you take out a commission of cops that are blue or black. There's 3 different colors of officer style. This one lets you eliminate a black colored meeple. This one lets you move, use a sewer with an extra advantage. They're all over the place, though. The chopper, nice advantage that you move 2 spaces away. And these raise and lower your notoriety. All of these are special cards, and they will go into your player mat, which we're going to talk about now. Your player mat has slots for 5 different action or contact cards, and you will collect them, place them, and you can use them by paying their costs, flipping them over, and doing the action. Those are extra actions beyond just the basic core actions of your turn. You also have wounds. If you take up to 3 wounds, then you're kind of in a vulnerable spot, because if you take a wound after that and you don't have any cubes, then you have to take a handcuff card, blocks off some contact areas, which kind of limits your possibilities. You have a bandage you can use every once. It lets you heal a wound, which is nice. And you have the rest option, which you may or may not, it's up to you to use. If you do it, it refreshes your cards and equipment tiles, but not the one-time use tiles. And finally, you have these special that you get when you get an action point tile. You get to take one of these action tiles. Some of these are like, hey, take a red colored meeple cop and move them away. That's same here. As you're filling these tiles, once you place something here, you get to take this and you get to put it on the most expensive slot here. And now they're able to be activated on your turn however you deem fit. So the cost of these is going to get lower and lower the more you add. And when you use them, you pay the cost, use the action, flip it over, and you get 10 grand. So it's kind of a win-win-win. Escaping is fun, right? And this is your money track. When you collect income, and you will each day at least, if not in other ways, then as you visit locations, you're going to be placing these cubes on those locations, and that is going to retard your ability to make much cash. The more places you visit, the less money you're going to make on payday, assumably because visiting those places also grants you a benefit in equal kind. And that's about it. We have nice solid money. Lots of 5s, 3s, and 1s. We got handcuff cards that, like I said, will block off certain sections, and also you'll want to not do that if you can help it. And those are the extra action tokens, which are very important because in this game you could be limited to 9 actions, and that's it. Because there's 3 days, and you're guaranteed 3 actions in those days. The extra action tokens will have a dramatic impact in letting you take a few extra actions or do a few more things than you might normally be able to do. Because the goal of the game is to be the person out with the most cash at the end of the game, which means A, you got to escape, and B, when you escape, you want to escape with the most cash. Only then will you truly be the escape plan artist. Anyway, let's get into a sample of game play. We begin with our first turn. Now, there's a couple things to note. I'm playing sort of a symbolic 2-player game. In the real 2-player version of the rules, you will also contend with this fine young lady here, who is going to be hunting you down. If you play the solo game, you will also be playing against a nefarious, dirty cop with an attitude of, hey, what the heck? And so this is just to explain gameplay. This is not to give you a whole gameplay video. Someday I might get good at just playing a game and doing a good job of an entire game session, but at this point I'm just really going to show you a sample turn or two of the game so you can at least get a feel for the flow of what goes on in this game. So everything you need to know, thankfully, is on here. Now, like most of Lacerda's games, the actual actions you take are very simple, or at least they appear simple at surface level. First off, every day you have certain phases that you do. As there's 6 phases actually, but in general, as with most games, 4 or 5 of those phases are usually just little tiny things you do to configure the board for the one phase where you do most of your work, and it's no exception here. First off, you get income. You would get income up to the number just below the cube that the cube line here. So normally you would get 9, although on the first turn you don't, because everybody starts with 9 anyway. So everyone's got their money to start with. They just cut to the chase on that. Next, we reveal the patrol cards. Now this is where, in turn order, now the turn order is basically whoever robbed a bank gets to go first. So have fun trying to figure that one out. Hopefully you don't have too many tiebreakers beyond that in your group. And so each player is going to look and place a tile on the board. Now, why does it matter? Well, first off, they're going to be looking here to see if there's any locations they can place that are going to be next to their character. They have 1 unit on the board at the hospital. Everybody starts off in hospital land. And so looking at that, you might go, huh, interesting. I think I would want to... I'm going to make a lot of money on nightclubs, so maybe it would behoove me to put a nightclub. So I'm going to do that. Terrain-wise, it's kind of nice to have them grouped together if possible. And so do that, and then place the nightclub. The nightclub, yeah. So we're going to place that here. All right. We now have a nightclub. We have a subway, which has no other connecting subway. And we have the black colored meeple cop on top. And then the rest are... Actually, I think I probably can turn that face down. Anyway, and then the next player gets to pick. And of course, if there's only 2 players playing, then in this case, I'm just going to go mess it around. Now notice that in this case, I might want to do this. There, okay. Now... Purple gets her choice of buildings. Oh, gym. Perfect. All right, gym. You're next. So we go to the gym and we place the gym there. Nice. And because we have gangs, we're going to place two biker gangs here. All right. And then again, we go to the next selection. And we're going to pick this. And now we have more choices. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 choices, which I believe we will place like so. In some ways, it's kind of useful to have blocks, the terrain blocked together, but not always. It's very situational, as we'll learn. And again, what can we put there? Well, this time we're going to put a locker there. There we go, or a safe house. Hey, hey. Cool. And look, more biker gangs. And finally, we have this. And we're going to place it right here. Why the heck not? Okay. And again, safe house. Oh, what am I doing? That can't be a safe house, you bozo. All right, so we're going to put this here instead. Safe houses and buildings are in different spots. And look, we have another clinic. How clinical. All right, so we are done with the next section, which was the revealing of the... reveal patrol cards. I'm an idiot. 1. And... oh, 1. Wow. Okay, so... we've already blocked off this exit. Sorry, this was a step this was the reveal of the patrol cars, not the placing of the tiles. And so we don't have the exit available yet. Exit 1 has not been revealed, so we're just going to place these exit tiles here. And then when it's revealed, we stick them on there. All right, then we did the placing of the tiles in turn order. And then we adjusted the turn order by notoriety. Now guess what? Everyone's at notoriety 1. So in that case, I believe they flip. I'll check the rules on that one, but that's how we've been playing it anyway. And yes, those will get turned over, and meeples will be added. And then, yeah, that's it. That's basically it. Now we're at the meat of the game. All of that was just kind of prep work for the actual action phase of the game. I'm going to take a break, set up a couple things, and then we'll do the action phase, which is really the meaty part. One other thing is, as part of the tile placement, you also do flip these tiles, which should have been face down, but now they will be again. And to reveal the next set of terrain tiles for day 2. Once you do this, you will then populate them with officer meeples by placing 2 on each one. 2 on each one. And notice exit 1 will be coming up, so we'll know when that gets placed, those other exit tiles will be placed. Ooh, exit 1 and exit 3. Now the one thing about this is that if there are duplicates, you can never have the same 2 of the same colored meeple cop. Then they go away. And they don't get replaced, so there is a possibility to ease your transition through the pathways of the city in order to achieve great notorietal success. Anyway, that's the extra part that was missing. Now we'll get into the action phase. In the action phase, as we begin, it's important to understand why you would do the actions, what you're trying to accomplish, and how you're doing it. You ultimately you want to walk away with the most cash, and there's lots and lots and lots of ways to do that. You have on your turn the ability to do one of 2 things. Just one of 2 things. Either you move or you rest. Now that seems simple, like all Vital games that I have played thus far. Well, not all of them, but you start off thinking that you have a very small set of things to do that then explode into a bunch of branching opportunities beyond that. Moving is a simple, you subdivide into travel, avoid cops, and then visit wherever you're traveling. Rest is not an action you'll likely take too often, but it lets you refresh your contact cards. It lets you get a tile, and it lets you heal up, basically. It does what resting would do. And you only do that once a day. If you do that, you've done that, and you don't get to continue to rest multiple times. That said, why would you move? Where would you move? What's moving all about? We're going to start off and have him Mr. Green is going to start moving. He's going to do the moving. Now, moving has to be from location to location. You cannot end your turn just hanging out in the landscapes. The cops will find you, and they will be annoyed, and you will be easily caught. So they don't even allow it. You can't even do it. It's impossible. You have 3 movement points with which to spend. How does that work? Well, it actually works fairly cleverly. No surprise there. You must take, it costs you 1 movement point to leave a location, and then it costs you 1 movement point to leave one type of terrain and enter another. And then well, that's basically it. There are lots of exceptions to the rule, expected. You can take subways, either helipads, there's all kinds of things. For example, water, unless you have a ferry tile, water's off limits, but once you have a ferry tile, then the whole water area becomes available, etc., etc. But at its most basic is you leave a location, you move through an area, and then you land on that wherever you go, you have to end up on a tile. Now, what can help with that? Well, gas. Gas, of course. When you get a gas tile, you can always spend that for an extra action point. So, for example, say I really wanted to get there, because if I'm there, I'm going to get mega cash. Well, 1, there's a ferry, it's okay. 2, well, that's easy enough. But what if there was something more complicated? What if I had to get somewhere a little more cleverly than that? Well, then I would go 1. Now right now we don't have too many places to go, but you get the idea. If you have to cross multiple terrain paths, there's going to be a time when you're going to wish that you had an extra movement point, and that's where it comes into fruition. So let's, for example, go. Let's go to the gym. That's not really our best, but what the heck? Let's go to the gym. So 1, 2. There you go. We've landed. All right. Now we do the avoid step. Now, avoiding is a little bit of a twist. Normally, in my mind, my expectation is that wherever I land to, I have to avoid cops. That's not actually how it works. Only tiles you leave are those cops actually relevant to avoid. So right now, I'm safe and clear. I have left here. I've moved here. There were no cops here, so I'm good to go. I'm feeling righteous. I did it. And these cops, I think the rationale is that these cops aren't quite looking for you yet, so whereas those cops are. Now, what's different is that once I leave here, then I'm going to have to leave, unless I go from here to here, and in the same tile, in which case it's okay. But once I leave this tile, I have to contend and take damage for every cop in the tiles that I leave. So that's like half my health right there. That's where you need to have some mitigating forces to come to your aid. And we'll go into those even later. Anyway, so we've moved, and now we've avoided. There wasn't anything to avoid. Now we visit. How do we do that? We take the cube, and we go over to where our spot is, the gym, and we have a choice. If our card gives us future cash, then we just set it down here, knowing that at the end of the game, we're going to know that we get cash for that. If it was a money one, then we would go up here and we would get a payday. We would get to basically get money. And right now, that would be sweet. We get $8. That's pretty cool. However, we did just visit it, though. So, when you get to that location, you can gain income or enemy money, and then you can take a contact card. Like I said, these do different things. All of them do some different things, and I believe that I will take the fighter, and I will place the fighter right here. Now this handy sheet will tell you what the fighter does when you look it up. And the fighter, hey, where's the fighter? Oh, there it is. Avoid all police officers of the indicated type on one tile. So I can spend $1, and I can avoid all blue and black officers, black-colored meeple officers on the same tile. When I use it, I will gain notoriety. So there we go. That's turn number 1 for my... Darn it, purple should have gone first. We're gonna... Hey, ooh, look at that. Sleight of hand. Am I a magician or what? Okay, let's go to red and go... Or purple and do... Purple's turn. Now, purple has an interesting conundrum because it might... We're going to have purple visit the safe house. 1, 2. Why? because it wants one of these keys. So it's going to take a key. It's going to place a key right there. There you go. And then looking at its handy chart, the safe house number 2 is going to give 90 grand. Ooh, 90 grand. Another thing I want to mention is that the money that you have is going to be hidden away behind special, like, dividers that basically keep you from showing all your money to people. I don't know that I have those out there. Yeah, there we go. So you'll have these dividers that you can use to hide your money. Since I'm just showing it, I didn't bother hiding the money from myself because I don't have a good memory. Anyway, and that's that. So now we're done. Now we do notoriety checks. Now nobody had, actually, visiting a location. Yeah, so we haven't done anything that's changed our notoriety yet. Except for, that's a lie. I visited the safe house. Of course I lost notoriety. Aha! See how much I forget? So I lost notoriety, so I'm down a notoriety. But I'm not going to go any lower in that regard. So now we do a notoriety test. Green didn't do anything with notoriety. Purple did one thing that reduced by visiting a safe house. They lost notoriety, got a key. Oh, and they can also grab a fixer tile if they want it. Ooh, I want that one. So that one goes there. But it cost me $2, so I got to get rid of $2. There we go. These sheets are really handy, by the way, because otherwise I forget all of the special abilities of each of the locations. All right. With that, we are done with turn 1. Now, we're going to go into the second turn. Still no... Actually, yeah, we start the second turn. And we're going to have to contend with a little bit of cleanup on preparing the... Actually, no. Return order, all placed there. Just notoriety. Yep, so we're good to go. Okay, so now we're going to do it again. Now, what will green do? What will green do for me? Green is going to visit the store. So that's going to be interesting. So 1, this is why you'll need 3. So it leaves, goes to this terrain. Nope. Actually, we'll leave and go to this terrain, which will scream us around. Not that it matters, but get here, and we're now at the store. Now that we've done that, we have to contend with these 2 police officers. Now, we're going to spend 2, and we're going to use this. We're going to bump the notoriety. By the way, that resets every time, so you're not growing. Okay. And then we're going to spend the 2 notoriety, or bump up the notoriety, and I can avoid blue or black colored meeples. Look at that. Alright, I did it. So I only have to take 1 damage instead of 2. Right now that's not a big deal, although at the end of the game you do lose money, lose future cash for everything that, every damage that you still have. So you do want to heal up if you can do it. Alright, look at that. How cool is that? We did the avoiding. Now we get to use and visit the place. Now, we were at the store, so first off, when we get to the special handy mart, we can take a gasoline token. So that's going to give us an extra move. Can have up to 2 of those. We're going to buy 1 or 2 equipment tiles and use a key. I don't have a key to use on the locker, but I can buy up to 2 equipment tiles. Now looking at my situation, I have blue and I have black. And guess what? If I use 3 more bucks, I'm going to buy this tile and put it here. And look, that means that I can use that tile and I can avoid a blue and a black meeple. How cool is that? So 3, 2, so we need to keep our money straight. All right, and we're done with that. And that's the end of his action for the moment. Now we're going to go to purple action. All right, purple action is interesting. Right now, got some decent money. Hasn't have anything to unlock. I mean, purple should have really gone to the store if it wanted to, but instead, it's going to consider its options here. There's no value in going to a clinic. You can go to the hospital and heal wounds and gain notoriety, but it's not really a... no, not do that. So 1, 2, we're going to do this. 1, 2, 3. All right, there we go. We were able to get across the water. Yep, 1, across the water, 3. Yep. And so now she's going to mark her saying, these biker gangs belong to me. And there they are. They're going to be handy when she decides to leave that tile, for instance. And it's going to cost her 5 because they got to get paid. And there you go. And so using the biker gang has been advantageous. Yes. Okay, that's that. So now we go again. We have to do the notoriety check. And I don't believe the biker gangs do anything for notoriety. And I don't believe that visiting the department store innately increases or loses. So, oh wait, no, it did because we used that. So 1 up for green. Green goes up 1 in notoriety. And then we do the notoriety checks. Now he hasn't crossed the threshold yet. Once the notoriety goes from 2 to 3, then he's going to get to activate an action tile. But he's also going to have some cops move closer to his location. So there we go. Just notoriety. Repeat. Yep. Okay. So there we go. Now we're going to go to part 3 of our first day. I'll take a break. Be right back. Now we're going to go through the third action of day 1. Now, I'm going to do something a little bit weird that I might not do under normal circumstances, but we're just showing an example, so here you go. Green has a choice, and green is going to go 1 to the water and pop right over here to this particular handy building. Now, once he's done that, he then has to contend with those 2 cops and either take 2 damage or mitigate it somehow. He bought at the store this. And so that's going to basically means he doesn't have to worry about him because they have a blue and black colored meeple cop. Now that he's here, he gets to use that. So he's going to place on here that, and he's going to be at the end of the game $100,000 of future cash, or 100 million or whatever, because he's visited the nightclub on the water. Handy. All right, that's it for him. Now we're going to go to purple. Purple has an idea too. Purple is going to move here and then move here. We're going to visit the same place. Yes, it is possible, and it has side effects. But first, we need to contend with those 2 cops. That's where biker gang comes in and lets you avoid all the cops in a tile because you got the biker gang. Yeah, but when you do that, you lose reputation, which isn't going to matter for purple right now, but you do lose reputation when you use a gang member, because they're doing the work, so they get the rep. Okay, then however, you gain a reputation whenever you visit the same location as someone else. So gains and loss. So they gain, they lose. There you go. Right now it's kind of a wash. And then she too will use that same place to put that there. Now that location is closed. You cannot revisit that location unless you have a key, which she does, but she'd like to use it for the department store anyway. So that's it. That's the end of the turn for those 2. So now we do reputation management, or notoriety management, sorry. And look at that, a wash and a wash. So with that, we are now at the end of day 1. Nobody has done any extra action work at all, or done anything that's prompted an extra action yet, so we don't have to worry about those 2 phases. But we are at the end of the day. Prepare a new day is the next thing we'll do, and preparing the new day is, I think, just kind of management upkeep, figuring out who's in charge, setting this back up. Not a lot. But I think I'll go ahead and fast forward through to a later time in the game, maybe show you a little bit of that before I get through with my closing thoughts. We're at the end of the game area, and you'll notice that we have filled all of the tiles, all the buildings are out, all the safe houses, everyone's doing well. And we noticed that at the start of day 3, exit 1 and exit 3 were blocked. And they are blocked, which means that exit 2 was guaranteed to be the exit. So that means players would try to head over to exit 2 here and take off. So on their turn, for example, green, if he feels like he's got enough money, well, bop, bop, needs to, I guess, first one through is kind of gets the easy one. After that, you have to pay some money to get through. You got to bribe some people and such. In fact, in a 2-player game, you have to pay 10 grand. Not a big deal, but you still do. But it does bring into a chance like this, like 1, 2, 3... No gas game. Yeah, so you can see the dilemma. You don't want to get caught not being able to get to the exit by the end of the day. Now, in general, had I played this more than symbolically, I would have probably been smarter than that. But at the end of the game, once it's over with, and let's assume that everybody escaped and they had fun and they frolicked and played and danced like children running from a sawhorse. Safe houses. So you'll get your payment from sawhorses, sawhouses. You go through the list, and whatever buildings that you've got, you're from the safe houses to the different 2 groups of buildings, you're going to get points, whatever, end game cash, whatever you want to call it. Then you're going to count up your actual cash, so you get some points for that too. Asset tiles, if you use them, and those are the actual tiles on here. Fix them off, but yeah. So if you used them, you're going to get 10 grand or 10 cash for that. Then you have your contact cards, and some of those also proffer some cash based on how many of them you filled, for example. And then money bags. Yeah, oh yeah, money bags. And then finally, that's things that you get from lockers and such like that. So then your notoriety level will give you points. And then you have to basically pay the piper for wounds. So it's kind of like a little 7 Wonders-ish kind of Ocean 7 Wonders, so to speak. Anyway, that's kind of it. Once again, this isn't a full playthrough, so there are so many details and so many things that still, any game from this, anyway, any particular sort of game, you're going to have lots of details that aren't necessarily known. I would recommend that anyone who wants to get a good, solid, sequential, logical, orderly, elongated example of how this game plays, do a search for Paul Grogan, who does a quintessential game explanation that I can't even touch. But I can at least give you a little bit of the game taste, and I hope I did. And now let's get to my final thoughts.
Okay, well, let's give some final thoughts to this game, Escape Plan, by Vital Lacerda. Let's talk a little bit first about the cons. Minute as they are. The learning on this, I'm going into the pros already, that's how much I'm giving away my thoughts. There is an interesting thing to have to kind of double teach people when I was teaching them, which is that people are used to you having to deal with the enemies that you go into, not the enemies you left. And in this game, you have to remember that step, that you're not having to worry about who you're entering into. Like when you go into a tile and there's cops, those aren't the cops you worry about. You worry about all the cops you left behind. And the rationale for that is sensible. It's because those people that have been, those cops that have been waiting around, they're the ones on the hunt. Whereas when you arrive on a tile, those cops don't really know your presence yet. That was a little thing to teach them, because people were initially like, okay, I gotta worry about these. No, you don't have to worry about those cops. That was a little subtlety that might need a little explanation. And there was another issue where the cards, some cards you pay for right away, some cards you pay when you use. Very small little thing, but something to keep in mind for new players. And then there was sometimes it was hard to explain people helicopter usage versus helipad rules. That's it, really. These are things that just flow over time. You learn them, you move on, that's it. Let's get into my favorite part, which is the pros. Now, Vital Lacerda, his high personal bar of component quality and all the things he does remains fully intact here. I had zero issues with the components. They are top-notch. They are solid. Everything feels tangibly meaty. Even the player boards, when you have, like Side, the player boards, you have the détentes where you can place cubes and things. Just gives it a sense of polish and elegance as you're playing the game, compared to, say, Terraforming Mars, when you fear anyone bumping the table and knocking all of your cubes off. The way his game boxes are, I mean, there are very few inserts I keep. I keep all of the inserts for games that Vital does, because there's a place for everything and everything's in its place, and he understands my need to have a tray that you can literally throw stuff out there, get rolling. With all these pieces, setup time is actually very smooth and very easy, comparatively speaking, to other games of similar component complexity. The map, I love the fact that he did something with the map tiles themselves. It's probably the most exquisite game of chutes and ladders in existence, because the map traversal is meaningful, and that, I mean, it's meaningful, but it's not drudgerous. So if he simply said, oh, you've got tile by tile movement or hex grid by hex grid movement, you could get really bogged down, especially when you're only guaranteed 9 turns this entire game. You'll get more if you earn more, but only 9 turns. At the same time, they don't become so inconsequential that they're just buckets of unnecessity. Because, like a square and a checkerboard, like you move it, that's all it did. You don't worry about the tile. And some games that I played contemporary to this, I actually feel like the terrain became sort of just nominal. This, he does it perfectly, because he weaves between the two extremes and creates that feel of just like trying to eke out how distance and movement you're thinking, because you have those flows, because you can go across any number of terrains that match up. You do care how that map is created. It's not like, yeah, we'll just put here and here and here and stuff, and I only have to, like, yeah, there's, compared to the other game I'm playing at the same time, which I'm not going to name, this gives the map a tangible, real feel, different every time, and you really are strategizing how to make your escape route. And that's very, very clever in pondering the placement and the movement and both, how you're going to get to different places, how you're going to use the map to your advantage, etc. Every locale looks, acts, breathes, and recreates the feel of that location. The gas stations feel like gas stations. I buy gas, I buy equipment. There's some lockers in the back. You almost feel like you walked into a dusty old gas station somewhere in the middle of nowhere. The gangs act like gangs. They do gang-like things. Convenience store, like, we already went over those, but like, clinics, they heal you, but they gotta report you. All the different locations, everything just makes so much sense in a real-world situation that it's almost automatic to be able to have people understand kind of what some location is going to do without having to explain it to them or explain the why. And each one has add-on privileges, and that can get a little bit dizzying. You got contact cards you can get a tile, your special tiles, you get your one-off helpers, and thankfully the included help cards, they just help explain all of that. But it's a trade-off too. It's like every place gives you gifts, but there's also that other element, which is notoriety, and that's kind of a mini game unto itself, because you want to gain notoriety because it gives you advantages, but you gain also, as you're gaining these advantages, you're also getting detrimentally acted upon by players who aren't quite as ahead of you, and their envy and their jealousy to like move people in your way. It just, you do have to balance it. Too much, too little? Do you grow it? Do you have to do things to help kind of like lower your notoriety so you're not closer to getting hammered with people hitting on you? Because I mean, damage is damage, and damage costs you money. Oddly enough, I guess we all bleed money in the end. But yeah, I mean, it's, if you want to be stunted of opportunities, then you keep your notoriety low. But if you make it too high, yeah, you'll find ways for your opponents to help triangulate cops to your position, and that's a bad thing. Absolutely, despite its cerebral penchant for how you play this game, I feel more action and tension and look behind warily moments in this game than I have other games that play way more narrative and yet don't pull off this amount of tension to me. Heist games, you got your, it's quite, Burgle Brothers, you've got, Police Precinct, you're going to play the other side. But games where you're trying to like run away or escape, fugitive and whatever, they have the narrative and the pizzazz and even equal components, but they don't actually put it all together in this feeling of post-heist tension. and it kind of writes, when I played this game several times before I made my decision on it, because I love Vital Lacerda, and his games are like mind-boggling to me. This is the one that was probably the easiest by far for me to know and learn. I don't know. Is it his best game? We'll talk about that later. But it writes its own narrative for me. It really, without even needing story cards or any sort of like, not, campaign or whatever, your actions, the contact cards you're using, the special actions, finding a way to manipulate all your little extra actions to like squeeze out of a tough spot where cops are all over the place, but you really need to get through them to get to a place, and you're like, yeah, I pulled this off. Here, to the, gang buddies helping you, helicopter rides, going across. Yeah, it's just flows with this flowing, polished, rational experience of trying to escape the police with a ton of money in your hand. But Vital has a way of doing that. He has a way of making a game that if you read it, it looks so simple. Like in this game, you have two things you can do in your turn. You can move, or you can rest. Boy, that sounds simple, but it's not, because from that you then start branching out. Well, if you move, then you have 3 stages. You have to use those 3 stages of moving, cops, doing your location, and then you have like 6, 7 executive actions that you use to try to prop up the best situation for those 3 actions, and it just it becomes this sort of like Christmas tree of opportunity that will leave you like staring at all the lights going, what do I do next? Except here, I really do feel like it's less analysis paralysis for me than it was some of his other games, and plus the joy of finding these ways to do this and like using that bad guy that contact card, or using that special one-time thing right when you need it, all flows. So let's get to my final thoughts. Okay, Vital Lacerda with Escape Plan has produced one of the most relatable games he's ever done. I use that word precisely because Escape Plan, his other games are all brilliantly designed. There's no doubt about that. He just doesn't have a dud in my collection. But at the same time, when I'm learning the nuances of gameplay for his other games, I'm also having to determine the why as well as the how. Like, why would I do this? Why would I do this and not that? Or why would I use this to booster that action over that? And that's the thing. I'm not a winemaker. I've never lived in Lisboa. I draw stick figures for art. So understandably, I kind of get what he's doing. This is probably one of the games where I literally could just sit in the seat like I'd sat in that driver's seat all my life and know that, oh, if I do that, well, of course, I'm at a gas station. What do I do? And because he made it so relatable, it was probably one of the most teachable games that I have for giving to people. You can relate to all of your actions with little or no understanding as to why you need to do what you do when you need to do it. No investment in education is required for me. It's just a matter of how best can I play. And it's nice to be able to fast track a Lacerda game to be able to get to that point. It has made it difficult to like revisit other heist games. After playing this game, I don't know that there aren't a ton of heist games or running away or games like that, but a lot of them are probably not gonna fly anymore for me, because this game hits on all cylinders and doesn't run out of gas. Vital is one heck of an escape artiste. We'll put it that way. It's highly recommended. It brings me immense joy to play this game every time. So take what you can, give nothing back, and play this sucker. Escape Plan, big thumbs up. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time on Harebrained Games.